So there seems to be a confusion around when should I signal at roundabouts, particularly mini roundabouts, but roundabouts in general. I think there's a confusion about when you should and when you shouldn't signal. When you should signal past 12 o'clock on a right on a road ahead. That sort of kind of confusion. Now the issue here is it is a bit of a grey area. The driving essential skills and the highway code both define signals as whether it's necessary or whether it's confusing, and obviously those two can be quite subjective, so there's no hard and fast rules, and this is where maybe we get issues, is because people try and put hard and fast rules and make it black and white into scenarios where it isn't, and it is dependent on what's around you and each individual roundabout. And I get that's where the confusion comes from. So the things you should be asking yourself is, how am I best going to tell someone where I'm going without confusing anyone? So that's the question you're coming in as you're sort of approaching the roundabout. That's how you should be asking those questions. So for example, here I've got a roundabout coming up. It's a double mini roundabout, and I'm following the road ahead towards the city centre. Now it is slightly off to the right, as you can see, but there's a road that's further around to the right. So if I put a right signal on, people are going to think I'm going into there. So even though this road is slightly to the right, a signal wouldn't benefit anyone. Now as I get to the second mini roundabout here, I'm going to pop a left signal on, even though actually it's ahead of me at that point. As you turn the corner, that road's bang smack in front of you. But because it's the first exit, anybody coming towards me now has no doubt that I'm taking that first exit, whereas without my signal there's still that element of, oh, has he forgotten to signal right? Is he going to turn right? Now my road positioning can help with that by taking up a left position on the approach to that second mini roundabout, but the signal just really clarifies it. Maybe particularly if you've got any pedestrians thinking about crossing the road, a signal is going to be really obvious to someone who's not a driver. So these are the sort of things that cross in your mind. It's not all about like which way is it, which is it past 12 o'clock, all that sort of stuff. It's how am I best going to tell someone where I'm going. So we've got a similar roundabout coming up here, where it's just a normal roundabout, it's not a double mini, but the road I'm following, so I'm going to go ahead at the roundabout. It's the second exit, but it is off slightly to the right. But again, if I signal right on this roundabout, it's going to look like I'm taking the third exit. So I'm going to approach slightly to the right. That again will indicate that I'm going ahead here. Normally you would approach in the left. No signal, and then mirrors the signal to exit the roundabout. But a right signal would make it look like I was taking the third exit round to the right and potentially stop cars being able to enter the roundabout. Positioning wise, because the roundabout is off, the second exit there is off to the right, it's a small roundabout, I did take up the right hand side on the approach, and then just checked my left mirror on the exit to make sure no one had gone around the outside there. That seems to make sense to me in that roundabout, because the left is almost right in front of you, and then the road going ahead is off round to the right. Got another mini roundabout coming up here. I'm actually going to be going left in this mini roundabout, but if I was going ahead, again, I wouldn't be putting any signal on. I think that would be confusing. It might look like I'm going all the way around. But I would take up the right hand lane there, because there is no right exit on that roundabout, so I can take up the right hand lane. That will give off the signal that I'm going straight on, but no signal on the approach there, and no signal on the exit. You don't need to signal to exit a mini roundabout, partly because your car is basically off the roundabout before you got there. So by the time you put that signal on, your car's already halfway off the roundabout anyway, so there's no benefit to anyone. So again, this comes back to, would someone benefit? So again, we're not going to put a hard and fast rule on this, never signal to exit a mini roundabout. Yes, the majority of mini roundabouts you won't need to signal on the exit because it's not going to benefit anyone. However, there are some very large mini roundabouts out there, and in those scenarios a signal would benefit someone on the exit like it would on any roundabout. So it's all about sort of deciding as per roundabout and not really putting these hard and fast rules on. And I appreciate when you're learning to drive, that can be a bit confusing, but I suppose what you should start trying to learn is not what are the rules, but how do I decide it? And then you can decide it everywhere. So again, I've got another roundabout coming up here. I'm going to be following the road ahead. It's the second exit. The road markings tell me to use the right hand lane. Again, no signal because I'm going ahead, and a right signal would look like I'm turning the corner. Keep it in the right lane on the roundabout because I started in the right hand lane, and again mirrors to the left before I signal to exit. And again, that roundabout's big enough for exit signal to be beneficial. So yeah, hope that helps.